Thank you once again for watching MBC, your number one African TV station, right here on 43.2, and welcome to the program Africa Today. We'll be looking at some issues affecting the African continent for the past few days and also this week. With a few headlines, we'll take a look at Liberia, where the Prime Minister has condemned the educational system, and also in Zimbabwe, aides to the Prime Minister have been arrested, and Somalia bracing themselves for some more attacks. We've been joined once again by Funsho Lamigoke and Godwin Agbuka. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, good to be here today.
Let's start with Liberia, where together your Prime Minister or your President coming out condemning the educational system. Some are saying that there was no need for Sirleaf Johnson to do that, by calling the spade a spade. Godwin, I'll start with you. Your thoughts and concerns on this one.
She took over in 2006, I believe, right? And of course, obviously, before she took over, there were some of these problems that she's talking about. Obviously, one of the concerns that people have had with the pronouncements that she made is, if obviously you think the education system is a mess, as she called it, do something about it.
Right.
So why has it taken you that long between 2006 and 2013 to actually make this pronouncement? But in her defense, I think that her government actually has done a lot for the educational system. The system was so broken that it wouldn't. I mean, it would take a magician a long time to be able to address the many problems over there. Let's look at the problems in the educational system in Liberia, and I think that it's kind of a microcosm of the larger educational system in many African countries. One, the graduation rates at the college level and even at the basic level. So one of the problems that she identified when she came into office was that a lot of kids were not going to school, and parents were not compelled to do that, which is why her government actually introduced the free compulsory universal basic education, which is a system that is in effect in many African countries. But then the problem is that, according to her, out of every 100 kids who went through the basic level, about 60 of them wouldn't make it past that level. And then when they sat,
that's a large amount.
That's a huge number. And then when they sat for the exam, only 15 out of the 100 would actually pass the exam, which actually speaks to, a larger structural problem over there. So she wants to look at the problem from kind of more holistically. I think that the problem that African countries have had with the educational system is that the system is too dependent on government support. And given the fact that many other sectors also depend on the government for financial support, the government cannot inject the kind of resources that it has to in the educational system. And for me, education is the central focus of every economy. So that is one area that has to be tackled, which is why before she came into power, one of the things that she wanted to address was education. Now here's the thing. I like her approach, which is she's trying to encourage government-private sector kind of partnership, which for me is the way to go.
Right. Because
government alone cannot address all those problems. And so that's a very good approach, because what happens is that the private sector can also partner with government to be able to address, lots of, problems in the system. Now, one of the problems that she also talked about was the issue of ghost names. Teachers who aren't really doing the work.
You can put a face.
They're not in employment.
No face to the names.
No, yes.
Yeah, no face
Ghost
to the
workers
names.
who are being paid, which is a pivotal problem in many civil service, whatever thing that we have in Africa.
Hold that thought. Funsho, ghost names,
ghost workers
being paid. The accountant general, shouldn't where she should start from? Because that's where they're getting the money from.
General?
No.
Why?
From the office and checking though, because at the end of the day, I believe that's where the names do go through, Godwin, right? For them to get paid at the end of the day. So ghost workers, or ghost teachers as they call them, are being paid. It shouldn't be difficult to track down where the money is going.
It shouldn't be difficult, but they know where the money is going. It's just that it's going into wrong hands. At the end of the month, I go to the salary section, either personally or they pay to my account, and I no longer work for the ministry. How do you know? There's a system in Lagos. Let me use Lagos as a very simple example.
Please go ahead.
My wife worked in the health sector, the health ministry in Lagos State for 22 years. When she retired, they have a system in place. When she retired, she went through some crazy processes to get out of the system. But every year, and then of course, right after, they begin to pay to her on a monthly basis. There's money they pay into her account, all right? But they pay it directly into her bank account. However, every year, you have to appear personally, be photographed, be thumb printed, and get an ID that says, though you retire, because they are still paying you pensions, I'm still alive.
I think
Because
it's,
as a matter of fact,
good,
another issue before they did that is people will retire and they will die,
and the money will
and
still
their
be
family will continue
going.
to-
Okay, I get.
So you see, it's fraud, and it's because the system is weak. When the system is weak, who is? Oh, by the way, it happened here in America too. I read about 2 years ago that actually a Nigerian was involved. A gentleman in New York died, and this other gentleman, who was his buddy, got his document and assumed the man's name.
So started getting money.
And when they discovered about 2 years ago, he's been using this guy's identity and been getting pension, social security for like over 20 years.
That long.
But that's like 1 in a million. But in Africa, it's like 9 in 10.
So that's money being siphoned out of the state coffers.
Yeah.
Now, Godwin also touched on the private sector coming in. Looking at the state of Liberia now, do you believe that, or do you think the people can afford?
No, let me come in. The problem they have in Liberia, he's already said it all. But there's just one little segment of it that Sylvie herself, either she doesn't understand it or she's handicapped. Number one, they have a private sector. Educator in the private sector, for instance, the government educational system is free, but kids are not attending.
Well, because Godwin said that the parents themselves don't see really the need even sending the children to the school, because you take, like, what were the statistics you gave? 60% will drop out, and out of the 40 that will go to for the state board or for the graduation, only 15 will pass. So then, as a guardian or parent, you sit back thinking, really, what's the point?
But then, these same parents that we're talking about would leave the public education system and go and pay high fees
for their wards to go to private
where their
schools.
kids will get quality education. And that's why the government wants to partner with the private sector. But they don't have to do that. They can share resources, but all they need, indeed, when I read Seli's statement, oh mine, I was like, this is my girl. But it lacks teeth.
Okay.
You know, Africa, we are very good when it comes to formulating policies and breaking down
the
stores.
implementation.
But when it comes to implementation, zero. How can you be appealing? You are appealing to teachers. Of course, she talked about the teachers stealing money from the students.
Wow.
You understand what I mean? It's not that they, okay, bring your money. No, not that. Money allocated for improvement of teaching, for their services, for, you know, the teachers will put that money in their own pocket and not do it. What does this woman have to do? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go down to the teachers. Fire the education minister. When that is reported, since she knows, it means there are reports. You don't fire the teacher, fire the education minister.
What,
you understand what I'm saying?
What good would that do? The teachers on code are taking money that's supposed to go to the students. So you fire the education minister. Then what?
Then everybody will sit up. The next minister will make sure that the educational director who is directly reporting to him, because in any case, don't forget, the minister may never ever get into the classroom except when they know that the president is coming around, the fire brigade approach and they want to show their faces to the media. But when the director, who is directly in charge of the counties or the school board, fires the president of the school board for what is happening under his county,
They will sit up.
they will sit up.
Yeah, I mean,
You
basically.
can make rules and not, okay, you say, if you do, this is what you should do. If you don't do it, I'm going to kick your ass.
Right.
If I say that to my child, and the child fouls it, and I do nothing, what do you think she's going to do next?
Take him for granted.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
I
weak.
agree with I agree
Okay.
with Funsho, and I think that Sirleaf needs to act as a president.
That's it.
At this point,
you
she's
have the
not.
authority.
What she's doing
But
is
she's not using
that
it.
she's actually kept on appealing.
Appealing.
And
No.
when you keep on, it's a very good strategy in a way. But then when you keep on doing that, you become sort of a different person. You assume a different position than the president. A president is someone who doesn't just go out firing people, but then who calls people to order.
Yeah.
That this is not working. But let me say this though. She's actually fired a number of people. He's fired some deputies. In fact, the deputy of the education minister has been fired. A number of people at the education ministry have been fired.
So she started somewhere, yeah.
The only person she hasn't fired is the education minister. Because, for I don't know for whatever reasons. But I take this issue personally, of education personally, because of obviously my interest and my area. What I'm saying is part of this problem has to do with the fact that parents can decide not to take their kids to school. But then if they decide not to take their kids to school, what actions are you going to take against them? So if there are some measures which are laid down that if you don't take your kids to school, this and that will happen to you, they will do that. Because for me, the basic level of education is more important because that serves as the foundation
Yeah,
for
builds them
whatever will
up.
happen.
And like talking about the measures being put in place that you'll be held responsible if you don't take your child to school. Now, right here in the U.S., you'll be going down
Sure,
to
yeah.
downtown and talk
Yeah.
to the judge over there. Quickly, your thoughts on this before
Yeah,
we round up
I
on
was going to
Liberia.
say that a lot of the times you are better off as a leader when you have a system in place that helps the individual to voluntarily do what you want him to do. You know what I'm saying? If I have to send my kid to school, and I know at the end of the day, that kid is not going to graduate. You know what I'm saying? There's no incentive. You don't have to give me money. The system has to be good. Okay, my kids has to go, say, from Houston to San Antonio or to NASA on excursion, and we know about it, and the government's provided the funds and all that, and suddenly, a week to the time, we are hearing it's cancelled. Only to know that the teachers have the money in their pockets. And the teacher is still working. What do you expect?
Of course, you lose the interest in
So
doing
you
that.
can't blame the parents. You can't blame the parents. Unfortunately, most of the parents do not have the money to go to private school. Some of them are going to private school because their kids are doing well there. It's the same thing in Nigeria. Private school, you pay like, I don't know, maybe
arm and
20
a
times
leg.
more,
Yeah.
but they graduate 100%.
Okay, and you'll be satisfied with what your
100%.
child comes out
Yes.
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so that's on Liberia, but this is a step in right direction, though. She's
Oh,
come
yeah,
out to
sure,
say
yeah.
that and fired a few people, so we just have to watch this story. That does it on Liberia. The program is Africa Today. We're taking a short break. We'll be right back.